Welcome to the True Man Podcast. This is an invitation to radical reconstruction of a man's masculine heart and soul in a place of safe community where we dare to ask questions deep seated inside you, man, and get you thinking and explore ways to help you become a better man, a better son, a better dad, and a better spouse. Well, welcome back to the True Man Podcast. Now, before I get started here today on episode number 242, boy, we just keep cranking it out. I want to start with a question. Who taught you how to be a father? Not who taught you how to work hard, not who taught you how to pay bills or mow the lawn or provide for your family. Who actually taught you how to lead a child? Who taught you how to speak life into them, how to discipline them without crushing their spirit, and how to model faith when life gets hard? You know, the answer to this is painfully, for a lot of guys out there, the answer is nobody. Not you, Dad. Thank you for all you did as we close in on Father's Day. I hope you're enjoying your walk as you listen to this. You know, most men have entered fatherhood carrying a mixture of good examples and assumptions, fears, and a whole lot of figuring out as they go. Does that sound familiar? And yet, despite all of that, every man I know wants the same thing. He wants his children to know they are loved. He wants them to feel safe. He wants them to become strong, capable, God honoring men and women. And he wants to leave them better than he found them. Of course, the challenge is that desire alone doesn't create a legacy. Intentions don't raise children, decisions do. Good decisions, good, strong discernment. So today we are going to talk about what happens when that blueprint is missing, damaged, or incomplete, and how a man can still become the father his children need and the leader that God called him to be. But before I jump in too far here, let me encourage you to jump on over to truemanlifecoaching.com and sign up for the True Man Inner Circle. Now, this is designed, it's a free resource designed to become the resource and help you become the man that you want to be. You'll receive this when you sign up on a weekly and ongoing basis. And of course, I'm going to put that link in my show notes. So after you listen to this, you can click on the show and go ahead and connect with that. Or you can just go out to my webpage at truemanlifecoaching.com and you will find it listed there. And all you need to do is just drop your name and email address in there, and we'll get that out to you on a weekly basis. Now, with that, let me ask you to think about your father for a second. I want you to think about not who you wish he was, but who he actually was. Maybe he was present physically in the house, working hard, doing what men of his generation were taught to do, but emotionally unreachable. You never really knew him, and he never really knew you. I know that's a story of a lot of men. Maybe he wasn't there at all. He left. He checked out. He chose something or someone over the family he was supposed to lead. Or maybe this is rarer than it should be. Maybe he was actually good, present, engaged, strong in faith, and even then, he wasn't perfect because none of us are. None of us are. And here's the question that every man in your position eventually faces. How do I give my kids something that I was never given? It's a very difficult question to ask and one that is harder to answer. But we're going to do our best here because I know a lot of men ask these questions. So the answer right up front is not try harder. And you don't want to hear that. And it's just, It's not a fake it till you make it strategy either. The answer is something much, much deeper. And if you stay with me today, I think it's going to change the way you see yourself as a father. So let's get into this because there is no doubt, topically, this is a weight that every man carries. So, and most of us don't always talk about this. It's not the weight of responsibility, though that's real. It's not the fear of providing, though that keeps men up at night too. It's the weight of that template, the plan. Every man walks into fatherhood with a picture in his head of what a father is. And that picture was painted typically by the man who raised him or the absence of the man who did. Now, whether you know it or not, you are working off that template right now in the way that you respond when your kid pushes back, in the way that you show up or you don't, or when things get or when things get emotionally heavy in what you believe you're supposed to feel versus what you actually feel. That template just runs deep, doesn't it? And if nobody has ever helped you examine it, really look at it, you will reproduce it. Good parts and broken parts alike. I've seen it in the coaching and mentoring that I've done over and over again. I've seen it in the men that I've talked to. A man who swore he'd never be like his father, never be cold like he was, never be absent like he was, never lose his temper like he did. And then one day his 12-year-old says something in exactly the wrong tone, and there he is. Boom. The thing he'd swore he never become, staring him right back in the bathroom mirror at 11 o'clock at night. Now, that moment is one of the most painful things a man can experience when he knows he's stepped out of bounds. But here's what I need you to hear. That moment can also be a doorway. The man who walk through it, who get honest about what they're carrying, who decide to do the work, well, those are the men who break cycles. Those are the men their grandchildren will thank. Those are the men whose kids say, "Not my dad was perfect. My dad chose us. Even when it was hard, he chose us every time." That's the man that I want to help you become today. So let me ask you a hard question right here. What did your father's template teach you about what a man is supposed to feel, show, and give? And how much of that template is actually working in your home right now? Sit with that for a minute. Don't rush past this. So let's cut through every parenting book, every conference, every well-meaning advice column and get right to the core of this deal. Your kids need 4 things from you, not 104. They need presence, they need safety, they need truth, and they need direction. Not perfection, not a college fund, although it does work out nice if you have one, and not a highlight reel of coach games and birthday parties. Those 4 things, presence, safety, truth, and direction, are the foundation of everything else sits on. Now, presence means you are actually there, not just in the building, but in the room. Put your phone down. Put your phone down. Make eye contact. Ask the question you actually want to know the answer to, not the polite one. You see, your kid knows the difference between a dad who's half present and a dad who actually sees them. They've always known. Safety means your home is the one place your kid doesn't have to perform. They can fail in front of you and not be destroyed by it. They can tell you the true thing, the embarrassing thing, the scared thing, the thing they messed up because they know you won't use it against them. You see, a father who makes his kids feel safe in their own home has lost something that takes years to rebuild if that kid feels unsafe in their home. Now, truth means you don't lie to your kids to keep peace. You tell them the hard things with love. You name reality as it is. You don't pretend the family finances are fine when they're not. You don't pretend your marriage is great when it needs a little work. You model everything, what it looks like to face the truth and not collapse under it. Direction. Well, that means you know where you're going and you're taking your family with you. You see, a man without a mission raises kids without a compass. They'll find direction somewhere for sure. The question is whether you give it to them first. So here's an honest question. On a scale of 1 to 10, and nobody's grading you, but you, how would your kids score you right now on each of these 4? Presence, safety, truth, and direction. Come on now. Don't answer with who you're trying to be. Answer with who they actually experience. So that gap between who you're trying to be and who they experience, you see, that's the work area right there. Dig in. Now, I want to take you to a story. There's a man in scripture who had every reason to become exactly what he hated. Joseph, son of Jacob, favorite son, which made him a target, didn't it? His own brothers threw him in a pit, sold him into slavery. He was 17 years old. Whatever version of fatherhood Jacob was providing, it just ended violently. And for the next 13 years, Joseph's life was a sequence of betrayal, injustice, and abandonment. He was falsely accused. He was imprisoned. He was forgotten by the very man he helped. And yet, when Joseph finally came to power in Egypt, when the brothers who sold him stood in front of him, desperate and terrified, Joseph wept. Not from anger, from grief and love. And he said to them, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." You see, right there, that is a man who refused to be defined by what was done to him. That is a man who chose a different template. Now, I'm not saying your story is Joseph's story, don't mistake me, but I am saying this. The absence of a good father is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a decision. And that decision, the one Joseph made in prison, the one men make in a quiet moment when they're honest with themselves, that decision is what makes a generational difference. You cannot change what your father gave you or didn't give you, but you can't go back and rewrite that chapter. But you are writing a chapter right now. And to be candid with you, your kids are reading it. I've seen that personally. So here's what I've learned working with men over the years. The most powerful fathers I've ever seen are often the ones who had the least to work with because they chose consciously deliberately. They didn't inherit a good template, they built one. And the building process always starts in the same place: honesty about what's broken and the decision to face it instead of reproduce it. So let me ask you something. Is there a pattern in your family in how men handle anger or absence or failure that you have been unconsciously carrying forward? Now's the time to name it, because you cannot break what you have not named. All right, let's make this concrete here. You can want to be a good father all day long, right? Intention without action is just guilt with a good attitude. So here are 5 things, not theories, not ideas, 5 things a godly father actually can do and does. He shows up before he feels like it. You see, feelings follow action. If you wait until you feel like engaging, feel like connecting, feel like being honest, you will be waiting most of your life. Godly fatherhood is built on showing up when you don't feel like it. Sitting on the edge of the bed when your kid is struggling, even when you don't want to, even when you don't know what to say. Happens to me more times than I care to admit. Going to the game even when you're exhausted. Staying in the hard conversation instead of retreating to the garage. You are training your kids in what love actually looks like. Love shows up. 2, he asks questions more than he gives answers. Most men default to fixing. That's what we are. We're fixers, but it doesn't have to be like that. Kid comes to you with the problem. You want to solve it. That instinct is good, but deployed at the wrong moment, it shuts your kid down instead of opening them up. Ask questions. What's going on? How are you feeling about that? What do you think you should do? You see, questions communicate that you believe your kid is something worth hearing. They build thinkers, not dependents. You see, Jesus asked questions constantly. It was one of his primary tools, not because he didn't have the answers. Of course he did, because he knew the question was often the point. Number 3, he owns his failures in front of his kids. Boy, this one costs a lot of guys. But it might be the most powerful thing you'll ever do. When you blow it, when you lose your temper, when you make a bad call, when you let your family down, go back and own it. Name what you did, apologize without conditions. No, I'm sorry, but I was wrong. That wasn't okay, and I'm working on it. Here's what I'm going to do different next time. You know what that does to a kid? It teaches them that real men take responsibility. It teaches them that failure isn't the end, and it gives you credibility that no amount of success can manufacture. And I got to tell you, these things are not being taught well today, nor enough. Number 4, he prays out loud with his family. I am so guilty of this, okay? Not because it's performance, because it models dependence on God. You see, when your kids hear you pray, really pray, not the polished dinner prayer, but the honest God, I don't know what to do here prayer, they see a man who knows he's not the highest authority in the room. That is one of the most stabilizing things that a child can witness. And finally, he tells his kids who they are. Your words are forming your child's identity right now. Sound familiar? Your identity was formed the same way. Every day you have an opportunity, whether you're intentional about it or not. Tell your son he's brave. Tell your daughter she's seen. Tell both of them they were made on purpose for purpose and that you are grateful you get to be their father. Say it loud, repeatedly, without waiting for a special occasion. Your voice is one of the most powerful forces in their lives. Use it like you know that. Now, I want to come back to where we started. How do you give your kids something you were never given? Well, here's the answer. You become a student of what you missed. Become a student in life in general. I think you'll find it beneficial. You read, you find a mentor, a man who fathered well, and you ask him how. You get into a community of men who are talking about this seriously, because you cannot build a new template alone. You pray honestly about what's broken in you, and you let God work on it instead of managing it. And you give yourself some grace. Not the kind of grace that lets you off the hook, the kind that says you don't have to be your father. You don't have to reproduce what's been handed down to you. You're not disqualified by your history. You are right now the turning point of your family line. So think about that. The decisions you make this week, this month, this year, well, they will echo. Not just in your kids, in their kids, in the family culture you're building right now, in how your grandchildren will be raised, in the stories that will be told at your funeral about the man you chose to become. Now, that's not pressure. That's actually purpose. And purpose is exactly what a true man runs towards, right? So here's your challenge for this week. Have one real conversation with your child. Not about logistics, not about school or sports or schedules, a real one. Ask them one genuine question about their inner world. And then just listen. Don't fix. Don't redirect. Just listen. That's it. One conversation. That is, of course, where it starts. Now, if this podcast landed for you, pass it on to another man who's in the trenches of fatherhood right now who needs to hear it. All you need to do is just grab your phone. I know most of you are listening to this podcast on your phone, and just take this podcast and forward it on to a friend. That's how we grow the podcast, one man at a time. And as I like to say, take this subject matter and take it into your men's small group. Start a men's small group with these types of subjects and questions. I think that you will find yourself immeasurably blessed by doing that and having these deeper conversations. So if you'd like to have a conversation about this particular topic, the whole fatherhood topic can be very challenging for many men. Just reach out to me at mike@truemanlifecoaching.com. I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this podcast, as always, go out to your favorite podcast channel. Leave me a great review. Always love hearing from you. Now, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the True Man Podcast. I hope that you're able to use everything you learned today to help you go out and be the man that you were called to be the father that you were called to be the grandfather that you were called to be. God bless you, and thank you for listening. Go out and make this your very, very best day ever.